you missed my last video, I introduced this project and provided links for all of the parts. Click the top left-hand corner of the screen to watch that video. Now, let's get started by getting rid of all of the old parts. Once the wheels are off, I began by removing the calipers. On this Audi S4, you can get the brake pads out prior to fully removing the caliper. This gives you a little extra room to work. First, I use pliers to pinch the caliper retaining springs and remove the end of the spring from the holes in the caliper body. The next step will be compressing the caliper pistons. This is easier to do if you relieve the back pressure of the fluid system by opening the brake fluid reservoir. Now, you can get behind the pad and gently pry back on the back of the pad to compress the pistons. There is a pry groove in the caliper body for this. This should give you enough clearance to remove the pads. The upper interior pad will need to be disconnected from the wiring harness with a small flathead screwdriver and a 90-degree turn. With the pads removed, I then remove the caliper. On this Audi S4, you will start with the upper caliper bolt. This will be a 21mm hex head bolt. I used a 21mm socket and breaker bar to loosen the bolt. Once you get that bolt loosened up, the caliper should be able to rock back. At this point, you should get ready to hang the caliper so when the caliper bolts are removed, the caliper doesn't hang on the brake lines. I used a small tie-down strap and looped it around one of the control arms. Now you can fully remove the upper and lower caliper bolts. With the caliper removed, I then remove the rotor. Now, the only thing holding the caliper on the car is the brake lines. Using an 11mm wrench, remove the brake line bolt into the caliper. With this gone, you can remove the caliper. The final step in disassembling the front caliper is removing the other side of the brake line. Using the same 11mm wrench, remove the other side of the brake line. Now for the rear calipers. First, you will need to remove the caliper slide bolts. This will require a skinny 15mm wrench and a 13mm wrench. The 15mm wrench will be used to hold the lock nut while you remove the bolt with the 13mm wrench. I didn't have a wrench small enough to fit on the lock nut, so I used a skinny needle nose locking wrench. Holding the lock nut, remove the bolt. Do the same with the lower slide bolt, but try not to hit yourself in the face. This is a good time to throw in a public service announcement. Always wear your safety glasses. As you can see, I was very lucky to miss my eyes. Now, with a gouge in my forehead and the slide bolts removed, the caliper is able to be removed. At this point, you can also remove the pads. I then remove the brake lines. This is very similar to the fronts, using the 11mm wrench. Now I remove the caliper carrier. This requires removing two 8mm Allen bolts on the top and bottom. And there you have it. The calipers and lines are removed. On my next video, I will prep and paint the calipers and caliper carriers. If you have any questions or suggestions, please write them in the comment section below. Be sure to check out my other tutorial videos on the DIY Garage channel, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.